Resident Evil 9 seems to have another leak that is discussing a test build of the game and seems to have quite a bit of insight into what we could expect to see from Capcom. As always, do take this with a pinch of salt, as nothing in this Reddit post that I will be going through in this video is official information, so it could easily be fake, but there is always the chance that it could be real, so it's definitely worth adding to the discussion of what we could see in Resident Evil 9. As always guys, a like would be extremely appreciated if you do enjoy the video, and subscribe for a lot more Resident Evil content. And without wasting any more time, let's hop into the video. So this specific Reddit post starts with the user saying how they can't contain their disgust with the amount of misinformation about RE9, and that they're going to provide some details about the game, nothing big but the truth according to them, and it is different from what people have been giving you lately, and of course you being all of the readers and the RE9 fans that are waiting in anticipation. So the first bullet point says that they played 2 test builds, both on different occasions with a few months between them, and everything indicates that it is a game about Jill Valentine and her mission. And they say that unless they tested a separate part of the game, Leon is not in RE9, which a lot of other rumours have speculated that he is, and they said that it at least looked this way based on the builds that they played. And they also said that the hospital setting is where the game is going to take place, which of course is where the builds that they played was set, and they mentioned that it was very large and has many locked doors, and it doesn't seem like a transition part of the game but rather the game itself, which is quite strange. And that was the end of the first bullet point, and I'm sure many of us did have expectations that this was going to be a larger scale game, given how the end of RE8 played out, where Chris was going to Europe, and it seemed like the game was going to take a more worldwide, or at least a Europe-wide approach. But it seems this is going to be a more of an RE2 style game based on this Reddit post. Of course, whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing is dependent on what you want to see from an RE game that's following on from RE8. But of course, the comment section is down there for a reason, so I look forward to seeing what you guys think of this. And then the next point says that one of the few documents that they found in the build mentions experiments conducted by a multi-million-dollar company that were spread through Europe. It seems like a report. I can't say if it was internal. So this bullet point's not too strange, at least compared to the first one. As to what the company is that the report is referring to, could be Umbrella, could be the BSAA. I feel like given Europe is where the BSAA headquarters are, and that's where Chris was heading towards the end of RE8, it would make sense that this report is related to the BSAA and their potential sinister activity. But there of course could be something bigger at play here. We'll just have to find out when Capcom start to give us a bit more official information. The next bullet point may disappoint a few of you, and that is the fact that they didn't see any option for first person mode, and the game seems to be very fluid and fully in third person. And then they also state that they couldn't find a way to switch this, or at least they feel like there wasn't a way based on everything that they tried. As for whether or not this is a good or bad thing, once again, it's dependent on you. I think for me personally, I kind of like the third person games for the characters that we know and love over so many years. Ethan Winters I felt was really fitting to be first person, given we didn't really know who he was, and it started out as first person. We never actually saw his face, so it was very fitting. Of course there was the RE8 third person mode that they added way later on, but regardless, for me personally, I think it's nice that it's third person, but if they did add a first person option, I think this would definitely please every type of fan, except for the fixed camera, unfortunately, which I can't see them ever going back to, at least for a mainline sequel game. But if they did make a RE1 remake, I wouldn't be surprised if they did like third person as the remake's default, and then a fixed camera angle as a little unlockable. But jumping back on topic with this Reddit post, the user states that there is no mention of Leon during the hospital session, and this is the second time that they've referred to this point. It is something that they did mention in the first bullet point, so it is a bit strange that they mentioned it again. There's nothing more to add onto this, so I will just move on from this point. And the next one is that the game has a chest system and a typewriter, both of which do not work properly, at least in the test build. This is definitely nothing to write home about or to really talk about, as a chest system and a typewriter has been a mechanic in many Resident Evil games. The typewriter, of course, being the save point, and the chest system allowing you to juggle your items throughout the game. So I'm not going to really go over this point too much. If they are bringing this back, I'm all for it. If they don't, I'm not too fussed, as many Resident Evil games have tried both options, and in my opinion at least, both of those type of games have done very well, so I don't think it's going to have too much of an effect. Then moving on to the next point, it says that there are save rooms still without music, at least for them. Once again, something that could easily be faked in a Reddit post, as this is quite a common trope in an RE game to have a save room, so it's no surprise once again. The Reddit user then goes on to say that the inventory is very similar to RE9, the 2019 version, and the game also pauses when you open your inventory. The difference is in the slots, which are round and not square. This is fairly interesting given the last two Resident Evil games that Capcom have released have both had a briefcase system where you're able to move around your items quite individually and quite manually, and this is going back to the RE2-3 remake style and even RE5 style of inventory system, which I'm not too fussed about. Of course, once again, this is very subjective as to which type of inventory style you prefer. For me personally, I do like the RE4 and 8 style, but I'm not too fussed if they go back to this more simplified RE2 style or RE2 2019 style of inventory. Once again, do drop a comment down below which you would prefer to see in RE9, and I look forward to reading how the discussion continues. The Reddit user then goes on to mention that the flashlight in this demo build is automatic and that they insist on this, apparently, and I assume the they is referring to the Capcom workers or developers that were present at this test build session. For the flashlight to be automatic, for me personally, I couldn't really care. I assume this only really affects the people that love their immersion to be as realistic as possible, where if you go into a dark spot, you have to make sure that you're remembering to turn your flashlight on, otherwise you're probably in for quite the jump scare. And when I phrase it like that, I feel like it is something that they should take out, or at least give the option to make the flashlight automatic or manual. And for a game that's coming out in 2025, or potentially even later, you would hope that the flashlight being automatic or manual based on the player's decision would be something they would implement. I'm not going to say too much on this, as it is a bit of a weird point. A flashlight's not too detrimental to the game's success, but regardless, the users mentioned it in here. And then finally we have the last two bullet points of this Reddit post. The first saying that the green, blue and red herbs are present in this test build, and they didn't see anything about yellow herbs. This isn't anything too crazy. These are herbs that have been in Resident Evil games for quite some time. Yellow herbs not being included, of course, for those of you who don't know, yellow herbs increase the amount of base health the user has when consumed, and this not being in the game isn't too crazy. They might have just thought of a different way for the user to increase their base health, or they've just decided on having the player's base health to be the same throughout the entire game, and maybe there are different items that you can equip so you take less damage. Once again, none of this information is official, so all of this is just speculation at this point. But moving on to our final point of this Reddit post, we have that the user found gunpowder but couldn't create any ammunition. They simply couldn't combine the gunpowders in their inventory. They're unsure whether or not this is a bug, or if there's another item in the build or in the final build which you actually use to create the bullet, but regardless, they're unsure, and this concludes their Reddit post. They do mention a few times in this post that they are telling the truth and that they're disgusted with all the misinformation that they've seen about Resident Evil 9, but of course do take this with a pinch of salt, as anyone can claim on the internet that they are telling the truth when all they are trying to do is stir up some rumours and fake leaks to make players hope for something that isn't going to be in the game. But regardless of whether or not this is true, guys, let me know down below what you think of this Reddit post / leak, and I look forward to seeing how the discussion continues. Definitely drop your thoughts down below on what you would like to see in RE9 and what you think of the things mentioned in this Reddit post, and I look forward to reading all of your comments. As always, guys, a like would be extremely appreciated if you did enjoy the video. It does help out the channel a ton, and be sure to subscribe for a lot more Resident Evil content. Don't forget to join our Discord, links at the top of the description, and thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.